Christmas ahead.
And we'll be doing the world's first ever...
Do yourself an injustice.
And it's a happy Christmas from him.
On the 12 days of Christmas we've seen upon TV 12 hours of snooker,
11 hours of bowling,
10 co-repeated,
9 Polish dramas,
8 panoramas,
7 brides and brothers,
6 Nolan sisters, Toril and Dean.
For what it's worth,
3, 2, 1,
to the manor born,
and a speech from the dear old Queen.
Hello there, I'm Santa Claus's drunk nephew. Tonight we'll be visited by one solitary spirit, the ghost of Christmas television past.
But I'm not all there. We all know that.
We'll be spooling back to a simpler time, when the channels were, like the Wise Men, merely 3.
Nice to see you,
So come bathe with me in the glow of the television to a time when the family was nuclear, the TV was rented, and your grandparents were on the way round.
For the next 2 hours, I promise you a very warm programme indeed, a lot of surprises, and maybe the odd tear as well.
Christmas was made for colour. These costumes, these big shows, these extravaganzas.
No shops were open, as a consequence of which a lot of people were watching television, to make their Christmas.
Hello and welcome to a special Christmas edition of Top of the Pops. Woo! What are you doing? You want to watch where you put that?
The magic Christmases were the 2 Ronnies.
So it's a happy Christmas from me, and it's a happy Christmas from him.
I was trying to think of something where we could both play Santa Claus.
We're a couple of stereo Santas, see us in our place of work.
Ronnie as well loved the idea of Stilton and walnuts and port and brandy and twinkling candles. You know, we liked to make it feel like a Christmas card.
Truffles and trifles and tipsy cake, we might go off bang without warning.
I would never plan out my viewing at Christmas. I would leave that to the sort of slightly obsessive members of the family who like to get highlighter pens and go through the radio times with quite a lot of enjoyment, so I was rather envious of them.
There were a couple of occasions where we thought, oh no, the 2 Ronnies and whatever was on the other side are on at the same time. And of course we're thinking, now how can we get around that problem? You need like a recorder or something, don't you?
Happy Christmas ahead.
If you wanted, you could watch the Queen's speech and then sit there with the bowl of nuts and the glass and just motor through the whole evening and thoroughly enjoy yourself.
Christmas may be renowned as a season of peace and goodwill to all men, but for the BBC and ITV, it was time for a ratings war. The channels rolled out the big guns to try and capture an eager audience, and one show was more highly prized than any other.
Madam, you're beautiful. Keep the lady entertained. I'll go get that. All right.
Morcombe and Wise, I do think, reigns supreme, and I got maybe even a bigger kick out of watching my dad laugh, knowing that even if this wasn't my sense of humour, isn't it nice to see my dad laughing?
Oh, do that again! You not say that when I do it!
It was the event of the year, and you would pretty much measure how successful / happy your entire year had been based on that one show.
Every now and again, someone stands on Everest, if you know what I mean. You know, they're just on the top of the heap and they can't. And Morcombe and Wise stood on Everest.
Will you welcome and say good evening to Mr. Eric Morcombe and Mr. Ernie Wise?
When it came to Christmas specials, Morcombe and Wise's home at the BBC was Studio TC8.
This is Studio 8, John.
This is Studio 8, and it's brought back many, many happy memories, I can tell you.
Coming to 2, an extra shot here.
Morecambe and Wise's trusted producer on their Christmas specials was John Emmons.
Does it change very much? I mean, it's set up here for for the sitcom 2 Pints of Lager?
Well, it hasn't really, except that, as always, I'm wondering how we did some of the big routines in the space.
Viewers expected big stars at Christmas, and Morcombe and Wise managed to persuade some of the best-known names around to join in the fun.
I'd have to give the credit to Glenda Jackson, because she was achieving on stage wonderful things as a serious actor, and people were so A, surprised and B, impressed with her, that other people then started saying, well, actually, no, I wouldn't mind doing a spot.
And as the Christmas shows became landmarks on festive television, celebrities queued up to appear. You hadn't really arrived on British TV in the 70s until you'd been on Morcombe and Wise.
You were never lovelier, lovelier, lovelier. And at each lovelier, one of us turned our heads to the camera. Lovelier, lovelier. 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 I don't know where those sketches came from, but they worked and everybody loved them.
Won't you change partners and dance with me?
Eric and Ernie were very keen to make sure that people knew that if they came on the show, they were going to have to rehearse, and it was serious.
And then they pulled off a real coup.
And now we have another famous person here from the world of music. Let's give a warm welcome to the principal conductor from the London Symphony Orchestra, Mr. Andre Previn.
I had watched them with real devotion. I thought they were the funniest people I'd ever seen.
I think you're in for the thrill of a lifetime. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, here to play Grieg's Piano Concerto is Mr. Eric Morcombe.
It was a show that, as Eric pointed out to me before, I should never have been there. It was what gave them the idea that that would be funny. But they believed in it, and it was funny, and I think it took people by surprise.
You got me here under false pretenses.
False pretenses?
False pretenses? What do you mean? What do you mean?
The only trouble they had with Mr. Previn is that he wasn't available to do the rehearsals.
I'll go get my best.
Please do that.
Yes, it's in Chicago.
It's in Chicago.
He's in! I like him.
I went back to Eric and said he's very keen to do it, but he can only do 3 days rehearsal. And Eric said, oh dear, because they love rehearsal again, you see. And he said, 3 days, how's he going to learn it? I said, look, this guy knows every note of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. He's not going to have any trouble with 12 pages of dialogue, you know.
Yeah. Believe me, you're in for a surprise, Mr. Preview.
Privet.
Open the curtains, please.
Yes. I go.
They drew the tabs and they just walked through here where the orchestra were, you see, from here. And the big concert grand was that side.
Yeah.
And the 45-piece orchestra was there. Enormous.
Eric said to me, you must never know that it's funny. You have to be absolutely dead straight serious. And I said, okay, good. Actually, that was difficult to do because they were making me laugh.
Grieg with him and him.
When Eric grabbed me by the shirt front and said, listen, sunshine, that wasn't rehearsed. And I was always very pleased with myself that I managed to be dead straight about that.